Did you know that at the turn of the 20th century, America's streets were ruled by horses? In the early 1900s, cities smelled of hay and manure, and wagons creaked through crowded lanes. People believed horses would always power the nation. But in hidden garages and dusty workshops, a quiet revolution was starting. Strange machines with rattling engines and wheels that spun without animals appeared. Some called them toys. Others called them death traps, but a few visionaries saw the future. In Detroit, Michigan, a restless mechanic named Henry Ford worked late nights. Covered in grease, chasing an idea bigger than himself, he wasn't alone. In Ohio, the Wright brothers had already shocked the world by flying. Now Ford and other inventors wanted to conquer the ground, but their dream faced enemies. Wealthy horse carriage makers mocked them, city leaders banned noisy engines from the streets, and average Americans whispered, "Why trade a loyal horse for a dangerous machine?" The battle lines were drawn. Every sputtering motor car that rolled onto a dirt road was a challenge to the old way of life. Crowds gathered, pointing, laughing, even throwing stones. But the machines kept coming, faster, louder, stronger. In dusty races across fairgrounds, cars defeated horses in speed contests, shocking audiences. Newspapers began calling cars the devil wagons. Yet for every insult, demand grew. As cars spread across America, the fight was not just about building machines. It was about power. In Detroit, factories worked day and night, turning steel into vehicles. Workers lined up knowing that the automobile industry was the new gold rush. But behind the shine of chrome, rivalries grew. Henry Ford's assembly line had changed everything. Cars could now be made faster and cheaper than ever before. But competitors like General Motors and Chrysler weren't ready to step aside. They studied Ford's methods, then improved on them, creating stronger engines, better designs, and brighter ideas. Each company wanted to dominate the roads, and each move felt like a battle. Cities like Detroit and Chicago became battlegrounds of innovation. Billboards lit up highways, each shouting about the latest model. Cars were no longer just machines. They became symbols of freedom, success, and status. But with every car sold, the roads grew louder and more dangerous. Horses disappeared from city streets. Families traded wagons for shiny sedans. America was changing at full speed, and there was no turning back. The battle spread beyond factories, and oil companies saw the rise of cars as their moment of control. Gasoline stations popped up on every corner. Tires, steel, and glass industries grew richer overnight. America's economy shifted, powered by the roared engines, but there was tension. Farmers lost land to highways. Streetcar companies collapsed as buses and cars took over. Small towns struggled while cities grew crowded. For every family celebrating their first car, another worried about losing the quiet life they once knew. This wasn't just a competition between car makers, it was a struggle for the soul of America. And the roads themselves became the battlefield where progress clashed with tradition. Okay, so I told you guys I was gonna run for president. I'm not running as a Democrat or a Republican. I'm running as an American. This country was built by people who loved freedom. They believed cars meant independence, speed, and the chance to go anywhere. By the 1950s, America was split. The car companies wanted everyone to drive everywhere. Cities like Detroit boomed, making millions of cars every year, but not everyone wanted this. They fought back. They wanted more subways, buses, and trains. The car companies weren't having it. They spent millions showing happy families on road trips and young drivers speeding along highways. The message was clear. If you wanted freedom, you needed a car. And the car kept winning. But today, our streets are filled with cars. We've lost control of our communities to the car companies. It's time to take back our streets. It's time to take back our democracy. It's time to take back our lives. That's why I'm running for president. By the 1950s, the American car industry became a battlefield. Ford, Chevrolet, Chrysler, and Dodge fought with everything they had. Each company tried to outdo the other, not with small steps, but with giant leaps. Bigger engines, flashier designs, faster speeds, all became weapons of this war. The highways filled with machines that looked like rockets and sounded like thunder. But this battle was not just about speed or power. It was about capturing the American dream. Advertisements showed happy families in shiny cars, young men racing through deserts, and women standing proudly beside convertibles. Cars became more than transportation. They became identity. In Detroit, factories ran around the clock. Workers pushed steel and sweat into machines that would soon race across the nation. The rivalry turned brutal. Ford and Chevy became enemies on the streets and in the hearts of Americans. Teenagers lined up drag strips and back roads racing late into the night. The question was always the same: who built the better machine? Yet behind the bright chrome and roaring engines, cracks began to appear. The competition drove companies to cut corners. Safety was ignored, pollution was dismissed, and crashes grew deadly. Still, the fight never stopped. Every year, new models rolled out, faster, shinier, and louder than the last. The roads of America had become a war zone of ambition, pride, and power. But no one realized that this race would soon invite a new challenger, one that could shake the entire industry. By the 1980s, cars ruled America. So when did we stop fighting for the roads? The story of how cars took over is one of progress and peril. By the 1920s, highways cut through every state, connecting families, businesses, and dreams. Suburbs spread far and wide. The car was king, but the city wasn't ready for the crown. Cities were torn apart. Neighborhoods disappeared under the wheels of progress. The downtown areas, once filled with streetcars and crowds, became parking lots. The environment also paid a heavy price. Smog covered Los Angeles. The oil crisis of the 1970s showed how fragile this new world was. The U.S. had built its entire future on gasoline, and when fuel supplies shook, so did the country. Yet car culture grew stronger. Hollywood films like Smokey and the Bandit and Back to the Future turned cars into symbols of freedom and rebellion. Detroit kept building. The Japanese imports like Toyota and Honda started taking market share, but Americans kept buying bigger and more powerful cars. In the shadows, a question grew louder. Did America give up too much for the car? Public transportation had been weakened. Pollution grew worse. Road deaths climbed higher each year. The same roads that once promised freedom also brought danger and division.